Oh, that's another thing is like a lot of manufacturers there, like you really need the type 3 anodizing,
Yeah.
like type 3 anodizing hard coat, because like if you do type 2 in a lot of companies, like especially like red anodized parts, which don't get me started about red anodized AR
Oh, I'm
parts,
getting you fucking
because
started on Red Anodizing.
um
This is now a Strike Industries hate podcast.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and BR. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and BR is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn Art page. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Art and War podcast. I'm doing an actual introduction this time. I think that's been my bit every time. I forget if I have actually ever done one before. Today we have Ben Gould of redact that BR, redact that, beep that out. You're not allowed to say it. I'm immediately doxed you because I know I'm going to dox.
yeah,
I know I'm going to dox what company you work for and are not allowed to say like 8 times during this. So we'll be.
yeah, you're good. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah. To those listening, Ben is a very accomplished gunsmith that works at a very cool company. One of the big 3, I want to say, that you've all heard of, and we cannot say, but do know that the guys that you work for are very cool. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I've got a bang energy. It's the evening. Sorry we didn't manage to record this yesterday, and we've
That's all
actually
good.
been talking for like an hour before this started.
Yeah, we've talked about just about anything under the sun, I
Kind of
think.
everything, kind of everything, and we've destroyed all the good topics. So thank you for listening to
Nah.
our podcast. This is a very short episode. I appreciate you coming on. But yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, yeah, I'm a gunsmith. Currently work at a fairly popular company. We do a lot of work for like high-end stuff and military work, a lot of research and development projects, that sort of stuff, which is pretty fun. Originally from North Carolina, I always had a passion for firearms, so gunsmithing always seemed the right route for me. I've been doing this for about 5 years.
When you say gunsmith, like a lot of people think about the old guy who's like fixes your Marlin 3030, like or like someone who slaps together a pre-built AR. But here you are, like working for ostensibly one of the biggest small arms manufacturers in the world at a pretty high level, like dealing directly with military contractors. There was something you were talking about before when like a Remington guy said, gunsmiths are a dead, like that's a dead field. Just learn how to operate a CNC and that'll do it. What do you have to say about gunsmithing as a career?
So, depends on where you go and like what you classify as gunsmithing. So I was trained, like I went to a gunsmithing school. Might as well just explain that. So Montgomery Community College in North Carolina has one of like the best programs in the country right now. There's a few gunsmithing schools, like actual schools around
I did not know those
that do
even
that.
existed.
There's one in Colorado. There's one in Pennsylvania. I think there might be one in California. I can't remember. But then there's one in Troy, North Carolina, that is a really, really good program. And I was actually on a wait list for 3 years. I got on it when I was in high school. And
That's awesome.
they have a really good crew of instructors there. Like we learn it basically like what you talked about, your old guy who fixes your Marlin. Like we were trained. They teach you how to do all that. It's a proper degree and like 6-semester program.
That's interesting. I didn't actually know you could go to school for that. We've all seen like the Sonoran Desert Institute. Learn how
Yeah,
to do this
yeah.
online. Like I
I,
don't see. Yeah.
I don't really think you can do gunsmithing online per se. You
No,
can
fuck
learn
no.
the basics, but like you really need hands-on. So like when I went to school, the first thing they teach you is machining. So like the
Yeah.
first semester you don't touch a gun, you just learn how to run a mill, learn how to learn how to run a lathe, machine stuff, hold tolerances. You actually end up building most of your tools you'll use throughout your program
That's
in your
awesome.
first semester, which is pretty cool. You learn how to like heat treat. We learned how to like make springs, all sorts of stuff like that. Use a file properly. Good skills. The instructors there are fantastic. Some of them have worked in the industry for a long time. One of our instructors actually ended up helping develop like 6.5 Grendel, and he's like one of the best like AR guys around that I know for like AR gunsmithing.
That's really
He was
cool.
awesome. Another one of our instructors is like a pistol expert. He actually ended up if you're familiar with the Nighthawk drop-in 1911 trigger, he developed that himself.
Holy shit.
Um, so like he was our pistol instructor for our pistol classes. Fantastic instructors. We had a so yeah, first semester was machining. Then we go into barreling action. So we learned how to like true up a bolt gun actions. We had to build 3 bolt guns. Um, it's like a Remington 700. I did a Mauser because I like Mausers. I like Milsurps. And it was already pre-sporterized or just an action, so people don't have to get mad at me. I do unsporterized things occasionally. And then we learned how to work on stocks, like fit stocks, bed stocks, all that kind of stuff for bolt guns. We did a lot of custom bolt gun work in school.
That's interesting. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but I see a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, like you want to become a gunsmith? Go to engineering school. Like learn how to."
There
You know,
is a fair bit of engineering involved and like print
Yeah.
reading, but you really can get away without an engineering degree if you just want to be a true gunsmith. A lot of really good gunsmiths actually are like tool and die makers. The old school like tool and die machinists are usually really good gunsmiths too. My scoutmaster growing up was one, and he was technically not a gunsmith, but he could do just about anything with a piece of metal.
Yeah. But it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like there are certain firearms specific things that you probably wouldn't learn in your average community college machining courses.
Right.
Certain things about heat treating, building your own springs. It's an
Right.
entire specialty in itself.
Yeah, like we had repair classes where we'd have to like be timed on taking guns apart and putting them back together. So like, and then like your grades for those classes were bill out. So it was like you'd have to make a certain amount of money for the class of repairs, which is fun because like you have to find broken guns and fix them and test fire them and stuff like that. It was pretty good fun. And we did metal refinishing, like we learned how to Cerakote. We learned how to blue, like hot bluing, which can be kind of sketchy because it's very caustic.
I would imagine like half of the things involved with guns are just severely carcinogenic.
Oh yeah. Like a lot of gunsmiths get turbocancer, so
Yeah,
I'm trying to avoid that. I wear gloves and everything as much as possible.
probably a good call. The amount of people I know who like Cerakote and whatnot, and they don't even use a paint booth or a respirator. I'm a little bit guilty of that.
Yeah, it's
At least when we're young, we feel
PPE is important.
Yeah, no, it really is. I think in my early 20s, it was like, no, I'm invincible. Nothing can kill me. And now it's like, no, everything
It's like,
hurts.
oh.
Yeah, I'm going to wear double the PPE I have to.
Yeah,
I'm going to use a paint booth and a mask.
Yeah, parkerizing's not as bad for chemical-wise, but you still shouldn't like breathe that stuff in.
So what made you mentioned that you wanted to get into gunsmithing and you were on a wait list while you were in high school. What made you want to get into it?
So, funny story, it kind of starts when I got into firearms. Like,
Yeah.
growing up, like I shot BB guns. I like guns, like in books and things, and then but never really actually shot one. My dad had a 22, but we'd never touched it. Just from when he was a teenager. And then one day, like me, a bunch of friends, and all of our dads all went hiking at this one spot in North Carolina. It's Hunt Fish Falls. If anybody local North Carolina person knows that. And we're all there playing around, swimming. It's a big, nice swimming hole there in a waterfall, and a bear comes out of the woods, and it's not afraid of us at all. And like it starts stalking us, circling us. Like it's getting pretty close. It's not super aggressive, but it's like definitely not afraid of us. We're throwing stuff at it, yelling at it. It's a big old black bear, probably 400 pounds or so. And we're all freaked out. So we all start trying to backtrack towards our backpacks and stuff. This thing's like getting a little too close for comfort. So we get up there, and as we're climbing up the trail, there's a copperhead between us and our backpacks. Then it was just like one of those just like freak things.
Just you are literally stuck between a bear or a snake. This is
yeah. So my dad ended up whacking the snake out of the way. Yeah, it was just Looney Tunes. It was just like it was completely surreal. So my dad whacks the thing. I'm 10 years old at the time. My dad whacks the snake out of the way. We all get up to our stuff. We get up the trail. The bear gets within about 20 feet of us. Like it literally stops circling us and just comes straight at us. So we all just like book it up the trail, like sprinting. Like we cover that mile or 2 miles in like I feel like 5 minutes. freaked out. So the next week, my dad goes out after we get back because he was just like, "Dang, I've got a Swiss Army knife and this sucks." So he goes out and buys a Glock, and we start learning how to shoot, and that's where I really get into guns, like hardcore, like
Yeah.
shooting. He bought a Glock 23 as his first pistol. It's 40 cal, but like back in this was 15 years ago, so that was the hot stuff back then.
Yeah.
Which I learned to shoot that. I learned to shoot a Marlin Model 60. Marlin Model 60 is also the first gun I learned to take apart, which if anybody knows about taking those apart, it's it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
And I was
they're kind of like clockwork.
Yeah, like the whole trigger pack, you might as well just throw it away and buy a new one instead of trying to fix it
Yeah.
or taking it apart. I somehow got it back together, but yeah, slowly it kind of snowballed from there. My dad bought an AR. He bought back then Mosins were $79, so he let me like clean the Cosmoline off and like take it apart and do all that.
Yeah.
I
I
also just
remember
like
those days. You could buy a Mosin Nagant at Canadian
yeah,
Tire for
I miss those days.
$99.99. Same. And that was, yeah, like 2010 to 2015. God,
Yeah.
what happened? I saw a Mosin the other day for
a lot.
$1,000 at a gun show.
That guy should not be in the business of selling guns. He should go do something else. But
Yeah, I was going
you
to
always,
say,
you
like,
always
light
get the
himself on fire,
gougers.
sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to be polite for the podcast, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I've had a guy at a gun show try to sell my buddy a Mosin Nagant that had a sewer pipe barrel for like $800. He
Yeah.
was like, "Don't buy it."
Yeah. No, gross. That
But yeah, so
yeah.
so that's how I really kind of got into firearms. Just it all started because of a bear in the woods. It's like it's a pretty good reason. Like it wasn't afraid of us. It was fairly hungry. And then like years later, we find out one of my friend's dads had sardines in his backpack.
Oh,
So that's why the bear was interested in us.
Yeah.
And we were just all like, God dang it.
Man.
But so that's kind of what sent me down this spiral and hyperfixation of firearms. And just kind of slowly got more. I ended up being on the local like skeet shooting team. So I was homeschooled growing up and never went to a public school. And like I had to do a sport, and the only sport like the public high school would let like homeschoolers do was the skeet team.
That's kind of based, actually.
And it was actually pretty fun. I shot skeet for most of my high school sporting career, and I got pretty good at it. I ended up placing second place in the state of North Carolina junior varsity, so that was pretty cool. Then kept my interest in firearms and applied to the gunsmithing school. I also wanted to go to engineering school, and I still plan to at some point, just to get the degree. But while I did some community college classes while I was waiting for gunsmithing school, and finally got in. It was a very good time. Again, the instructors at that school are awesome. The classwork is awesome. So if anybody really wants to try to get into gunsmithing, I highly recommend that school.
Yeah.
They're also one of the very few schools that like government agencies will hire gunsmiths straight out of, for like some of your like law enforcement and that kind of stuff. They really look at that school for because it's like produce a quality gunsmith at least. Gunsmithing school was interesting because you get a mix of people. There's guys there who literally just want to play with guns and like not work. Like you get some weird people, and you get like retirees who are just doing it as a hobby. Met some pretty cool people that way. A lot of ex-special ops guys because of where that place is in regards to like Fort Bragg.
Yeah, not super far from. Or what's it? Yeah, no, it's Fort Bragg. I know it's got a different name now. But
yeah, Fort Liberty now, but it's always going to be Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
You can't change that.
Yeah, but yeah, I would imagine you'd get a lot of ex teams and a lot of ex-military guys.
Yeah, there's several in my class. A couple guys who were like Black Hawk Down veterans who were really cool.
Speaking of government contracts and whatnot, because when you mentioned it again, a lot of people listening to this are like, okay, cool, a gunsmith. Like, what exactly do you do? And you're mentioning working immediately for government agencies right out of school. And you, who, we've met before. I've seen some of the cool shit that you do that I wish we could talk about. but
Yeah,
it's
not
not.
not this time.
Yeah, it's not what a lot of people would be expecting. It's a lot of
Yeah,
dealing
so
with.
like
Yeah,
so like most people think general gunsmith are like a guy who's at a shop who repairs your guns, fixes them,
yeah,
and that is the case. There's not a whole lot of money to be made there unless you
yeah,
work for like an actual retail shop,
yeah.
like as it's
And
like
I
a
feel like a
side,
lot of those guys
or
are probably self-taught.
some there's one shop I went into where the guy claimed to be a gunsmith, and he was like taking like bottles of cold blue and dumping them all into one big bucket and just like dumping a whole gun in there to calling it a refinishing job.
Holy
So
shit.
there's people like that. If you see that, just walk out of the store and take your business elsewhere.
Yeah,
Or if they've got Dremels, run.
yeah. It's kind
That's
of
just
like
the meme of the Dremel gunsmith is pretty prevalent.
yeah.
If
It
they got a
reminds me a
good
little
mill
bit
and
of
lathe and they seem to know what they're doing, or their prices are very high, it probably means they're do a good job, because like your average gunsmith is going to charge like $100 an hour for machine time,
yeah.
just
My
because it takes a while to set up and a while to work on that.
but yeah,
I,
you end up working a lot with like government agencies and
yeah, so I got hired straight out of school, so this sometimes happens, not to everyone.
yeah,
I did well enough in school, so the instructors do have contacts in the industry of like kind of trying to place students who they think are good
yeah,
for spots, and my employer was looking for a gunsmith, particularly from the school, because he's friends with one of the instructors.
yeah,
Um, and basically, I got a job doing some really cool stuff, basically like as an R&D gunsmith, for a fairly major high end manufacturer, contractor, which is kind of a dream job for a lot of gunsmiths, I think.
yeah,
Which I don't know how I did it. I did pretty well in school, but like I was always the guy in school who had the problem that the instructor had never seen before, which was always hilarious. Um,
yeah. How do you
like,
mean?
like, trying to think of one. I snapped a bolt handle off a Remington 700, like one of the threaded bolt handles, and the instructor was like, "I have never seen that before. I don't know even how I did it. Like, it just came off." So I don't know, just kind of stuff like that, or just like I'd set something up, the guy before me on the fixture would do it and it worked perfectly, and then I'd do the exact same thing and it wouldn't. Stuff like that. It's just kind of
Yeah,
weirdness. There's a lot of nuances to machining that maybe I didn't understand then. Yeah, I work basically at the place I am at. Sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place.
no, you're
ADHD
totally
here.
okay.
Um,
That's what BR's job is. He's the edit monkey. He's going to remove all the pauses and the thoughts
gotcha.
and the me zoning out into nothing for absolutely no reason.
This week's episode is brought to you by Two Grunts Inc. Two Grunts Inc. is a veteran-owned and operated rifle manufacturer crafting firearms with professionals and prepared citizens in mind. All of their parts and components are developed, tested, and manufactured to perform using the most standard of mil-spec 5.56 ammunition. Purpose-built work guns is their motto, and rifles made to last is their ethos. With high-end components and materials used in all of their rifles, like their 4150 CMV nitride-treated barrels utilizing a 223 Wild chamber and a 1-in-8 twist, optimized for both M855 and M193 ammunition, achieving 1 MOA or better with most manufactured mil-spec ammos. Bolts made out of 9310 super alloy steel and carriers made from shot-peened 8620 steel, maximized for increased toughness, wear resistance, and strength. Each and every part has been meticulously thought out, deliberately tested, and expertly manufactured and installed. Each rifle also comes standard with a 45 or 90 ambidextrous fire controls, gas buster ambi charging handles, and many other high-end functional parts. Check out their website, twogruntsinc.com, that's TWO as in 2, and GRUNTS as in rifleman by trade, INC.com, to purchase one of their rifles, or other parts for sale. Use the code CBRN, that's Charlie Bravo Romeo November, to get $50 off your order. That's CBRN to get $50 off your order. Be sure to also check out their Instagram and YouTube at twogrunts_inc to learn more about them, their rifles, and their other products. Once again, that's code CBRN to receive $50 off your entire purchase at twogruntsinc.com. Thanks guys for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah. So where I'm at currently, I work directly with the engineers. So they'll come up with the design. I'll go and like we'll make it. I'll go fit it together, see if it works. Report back to them what works, what doesn't. Sometimes I'll do experiments. Like today, I was doing lots of different like gassing tests and buffer tests using high-speed cameras to check bolt velocity and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like we do a lot of R&D. Um,
I remember you showing me some of it at SHOT Show. I'm not going to say exactly what because I think that would dox the company
Oh
entirely.
yeah.
And like I think most of the people listening to this, probably a vast majority of them are going to be familiar with it.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't be too hard to figure out where I work just from like if I talked about some of the cool stuff we do.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and avoid that, but I use some of your products too. I think some of the if I say exactly what it is, people will know immediately. But some of the operating, some of the go parts of your guns are considered some of the best in the industry. The parts that make it go bang. But some of the stuff you were showing me, it was wild. Things that I'd never seen before, never really thought about, but it seemed cool. Like one of the things I have to be purposely vague here, and it's driving me wild.
Yeah.
For one of your precision guns, just how the gas system was designed.
Special gas system.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing is a lot of it's just like an engineer or somebody will just come up with an idea and we'll just like make it and like, oh hey, it works, okay, and that's how to optimize it now.
Yeah.
And it kind of just goes like that. There's a lot of iterative development, so that's where I come in. Of like the engineer will design something really pretty, but if you can't make it, it's useless. So I'll be the guy that kind of trying to figure out how to make it, how to improve it. Like if it came off a machine wrong, I have to hand fit it. What did I do to hand fit it? And like report back to the engineer so they can change the drawings and like kind of make it good, give it the seal of approval before it goes into full production. It's kind of how I do things. Cool. Like I gas a lot of rifles.
Yeah.
So like if anybody has any problems with our company's gas ports, they can ask me or come to me because I'm the guy who set them. Which is funny because like there's a lot that goes into tuning a good AR.
Yeah.
So it's like gas port, buffer, like the whole system has to work
in harmony.
Balance. Yeah.
I know a lot of guys who also will have like an 18-inch, rifle upper and a 10-inch rifle upper, and they'll just move them around and be surprised when things don't work or they
or like you wear your bolt carrier out faster or
yeah.
wear your bolt lugs out or break firing pins or yeah.
It's like all of this has to work in harmony. And
why does this recoil harder when I swap it to a 10-3? It's like, well, the gun's dwell time is way off now, and you need to put a new buffer in.
Yeah. But what do you think about things like online? Not to bring us off topic. What do you think about places like online gunsmithing courses? I see a lot of them, and I've kind of developed a picture in my head, and I'm not like a YouTuber. I don't want to.
So I'm not super familiar with like Sonoran Desert Institute or what they do. I just have heard, seen the memes and some of the stories of the gunsmiths, quote unquote. I think it's at best you could call some of those people armorers, unless you get like good machining skills, and the only way you can do that is by just going and cutting metal, and not everyone's cut out for that. Like there was in my gunsmithing class, we started with 16 people, and my class graduated like 7. So
it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. You get pretty weeded out pretty quickly. Some people just can't machine, like just can't run a machine. Like their brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah. But I'm pretty skeptical about academia in general, and especially when things are brought entirely online.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that people can't glean value out of it. I'm sure that, like if you want to learn how to gas an AR properly, you can probably learn that from YouTube. But I don't quite know who the
YouTube's
target audience is.
Pretty strict, but like there's a lot of good information online.
Yes.
Like ar15.com is an excellent resource. There's some pretty good subject matter experts on there that can like give you tips and tricks on gunsmithing and guns and like how to set stuff up.
Yeah.
They're pretty friendly too. Generally. As long as you stay on the technical forums, if you go to the general discussion area of ar15.com, it's a cesspool.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I think it's just online in general.
Yeah.
Especially like, and I say this about everything. It's like any hobby or special interest group that gets too deep. Like it could be anything from like AR-15s, guns in general, preparedness, so and so, to things like horses or crochet or like
absolutely, you get your hardcore.
I don't fucking know. Like,
Yeah, you get the hardcore gatekeepers and the
yeah,
like the FUD lore and the kind of just people
yeah.
get wrapped up in their own ego.
You get people who like make it their entire personality, and that's why
Right.
I'm like terminally offline these days, which is bad considering my job technically is online, and we are talking over online right now.
Yep.
Um,
I'm not even allowed to have a cell phone at work, so like I just aren't online.
yeah, your job is super offset conscious, and I can't really blame them considering some of your clients and everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, we do
But,
some cool stuff for some cool people that I'm pretty much not allowed to talk about. So
yeah. It's like, oh yes,
Uh,
Ben, he's the gunsmith at the place. And then you're talking to me about like DARPA contracts and all this like
no DARPA, but
no
like
not DARPA, but
just
equivalent. It's like the cool gun world equivalent.
yeah, just some cool military stuff
Yeah,
that pretty proud of because it is public. Like publicly, we have those contracts, so it's like I can't. It's not like I'm doing anything classified,
yeah,
but it's just cool stuff I got to work on. It's like historical stuff almost. So it's
yeah.
been pretty fun being part of that development team because
So,
we've made some pretty special stuff.
yeah. So I have like a question. I don't know if you've ever dealt with anything like this, but it just came to my mind now. I can hear you playing with your high power in the background. It's really fun.
Yes.
Kind of
Sorry.
adorable. No, it's okay. I got a Beretta in my hand right now. It's pretty great. I feel like that's just kind of the rule for this show.
Absolutely. I have to fiddle with a gun.
Yeah,
while
it's
I'm
like
doing
this is
something.
my talking stick. Um, it's an entire like personality subset of people, and one of my friends is like this, and I've met a couple of people, and they're always purposely contrarian. They're always looking for the thing that like hasn't been done yet, or suggesting things that are completely outside of the norm. For example, like carbon fiber barrels or carbon fiber reinforced bolt carrier groups or something silly.
I would not do a
weird
bolt carrier with
metallurgy.
carbon fiber, but
Yeah, like the people who are always looking for something that's just different, completely different. It might work, it might not, but it's always just contrarian, and it kind of drives me wild. Ultimately, they're an adult and they can make their own stupid financial decisions, and sometimes it might work
I mean,
depending on what they're doing.
some people
But
just want to be unique.
yeah,
If some of that stuff will work for specific purposes, like it's a very, very niche purpose
yeah,
that it'll work in. I've shot some carbon fiber barrels. Part of my job, I actually end up getting to test a lot of like industry stuff
yeah,
around like just antibodies or just I've tested a lot of guns over
yeah.
the years. I probably put like 50,000 rounds a year down just from like at work.
Dude, your lead
So
levels must be ridiculous.
I have to wear a respirator. They're still low for now. They did spike up a bit when we got our indoor range set up because it wasn't ventilated properly.
Yeah,
And then we figured that out pretty fast. And I'm back down to pretty good levels now. I wear
that's
a
good.
respirator and like
Yeah.
a suit at work. Like I look like the guy from the No Country for Old Men with the
Oh,
little
Anton
like, ones.
Sugar.
Yeah, I have the jumpsuit like that I wear to keep that I keep at work and wash to keep the lead off me.
Yeah, honestly, a good call. I think I'm
Yeah.
using those. What are they called? They're like D wipes, I think.
Yeah, D wipes, the D lead wipes. Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic.
Definitely recommend.
Yeah, not sponsored
everyone
by them
listening,
at all, nor
take
Sonora
heavy-
Desert Institute.
Please take heavy metal poisoning seriously. It is actually a problem. We had a guy at work get really sick
Yeah.
from lead poisoning because he just wasn't wearing a mask.
Yeah, no,
it was
it's
pretty bad.
it'll make you more retarded than you already are.
Oh yeah, and I don't need to be any more retarded. I'm definitely down there. So.
Oh, dude, fucking same. Every day of my life. But
But yeah, going back to carbon fiber rails, I have shot a few. They're
Yeah.
probably good for a hunting application.
yeah, hunting
Just
or like
lightweight. As soon as
yeah.
you get like a group or two through them, they just the accuracy and the like precision just goes to the wind. Just the way they heat up, it's not consistent. It's not like a standard stainless steel barrel.
Yeah.
I had a friend who tried to build a 6-arc 14.5 with a proof research barrel, and like he cannot get that thing because he was trying to shoot at PRS, and like after the first like 5 rounds, like he couldn't
Yeah.
hit the target.
I would
couldn't-
imagine that it doesn't do super well with heat or like long.
No, they don't heat up. It's meant to like carry in the woods, shoot once or twice, and then take home. So that's
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool concept. Like that's what Eugene Stoner tried originally on the AR-10 back in the 50s.
Yeah.
Um, the original AR-10 that blew up in the military trials because they had an aluminum sleeve barrel that they were
Holy
trying to
shit.
do, and it separated, and that's why the M14 won, or it got kicked out of the program, the
Yeah.
M14 program. Um, and then came back with a vengeance 5 years later
Yeah.
as the AR-15.
I
Because
did
like
not know that actually.
yeah, it's a history of the AR-15 is very interesting. There's a book. Let me figure it. It's called The Black Rifle. It's like
Yeah.
a collector series book. You can find it as a PDF online.
That's
But
actually
it
really
goes
cool.
through
I might read that.
it.
I really
It
liked the book
dispels
about Bach.
all the myths about. It's called The Black Rifle and M16 Retrospective by Edward Azell and R. Blake Stevens. And fortunately, we had it on our engineering drive at work, so I was able to like read it, take it, or like download it, read it. Because like copies go for like $300, but
Holy
like
shit, yeah.
it dispels all the FUD lore. Like the whole thing with like the M16 blowing up in the 60s, like this was being unreliable. It goes through all that, and it actually wasn't. It was more of just iterative problems, like developmental problems, than it was like purposeful anything. Like the guns, they changed the gunpowder because they wanted better velocity because they had to open the because of another problem where they opened up tolerancing on the chambers and barrels to make them more manufacturable.
Yeah.
And when they change the powders, it changes the balance of the gun because it changes your pressure curve. And then they had to go back and fix it while it was jamming up. It was being dirty. The cleaning kit thing was totally on the military though. They just didn't forgot to issue cleaning kits. But it's interesting reading that. It's interesting reading that book
Yeah.
because like a lot of the myths about like the shitty M16 from Vietnam. No, like everybody at first loved it, and then like when it went to serial production and like the army tried to start changing things, it had a few issues that had to get sorted out because they would change one thing and it affect something else, and they wouldn't realize it until a little while later. And like
Yeah.
yeah, the whole powder thing was just to get better velocities with
Yeah.
the opened up tolerances because it dropped below the threshold that they wanted, the military wanted for
Yeah.
lethality.
And people hadn't really figured out maintenance yet, from what I understand.
Yeah, especially in like the jungles, they definitely needed to chrome line those bolt carriers and barrels, and that was a fairly new process at the time too.
Yeah.
Actually, the story, like as we go on the side tangent here, the story of Eugene Stoner getting hired at Armalite is hilarious because like
Hell, I've never heard.
Armalite was I learned this from one of my armorers courses I took, and that we went through the whole history of the M16, AR-15, and like basically Eugene Stoner was like a self-taught guy. He was an aircraft mechanic at War II. I think he had an engineering degree, I believe. But then like Armalite was a division of the aircraft company Fairchild Aircraft, and they wanted to make basically told you need to make aluminum rifles for military contracts because there's like a light rifle program that was going on or something
Yeah.
like that at the time. And basically they were like, it's impossible. You can't build a gun out of aluminum. And one of the engineers from Armalite goes to the range one weekend, and the guy at the next bay over is shooting a homemade garage-built aluminum gun
Ha!
that he had built for his wife, and it was Eugene Stoner, and they hired him right there on the spot. So the story goes, and like that's where the development went. Like his early rifles look a lot like a Remington like 742 Woodsmaster, um, with the same bolt. He had seen Johnson rifles in the Pacific, so he kind of got some inspiration there. And actually, Melvin Johnson worked at Armalite for a while. So that's where like a lot of the bolt design and stuff comes from, which is always interesting. I love history, so like I go super nerdy into like gun firearms developmental history of all the little details.
It's really interesting, actually.
It's just kind of funny, like the series of coincidences.
Kind of reminds me of Accuracy International for some reason.
Yeah, the three guys in a shed.
3 guys in a shed that had to very quickly fake that they were not 3 guys in a shed.
Yeah, that is a pretty hilarious story.
Yeah.
The place where I work has a similar like starting story kind of. It's pretty funny. I'm not allowed to tell it on the air, but you can tell it off the air, or I'll tell it at some point.
I'm super curious, but yeah, I'm curious too. And you kind of have a little bit of a inside glean about this kind of thing. How military contracts and acquisition gets handled, because it's no secret from the outside. A lot of the stuff like the NGSW and everything else is a mess. And I can point at it all day and be like, well, that's because it's SIG. but all government
some of that is
contracts.
SIG, but
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much I can talk on this. I don't deal with that side of things much, but basically, like there's a submission. The government puts out like, hey, we want X. All the companies that are invited, you get invited to submit, and then like, or just you show up and you try to fulfill the requirements as best you can or close as you can, because sometimes the requirements are absolutely wild, like never been done before kind of things for like
Yeah.
accuracy or like maintainability or like longevity of parts and stuff like that. And then you shoot, and then it goes into developmental destructive testing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like there's a lot of like bureaucracy that has to be dealt with for the government contracts, but it's a pretty interesting process. I'm really not able to go too deep into that. Sorry.
No, you're totally okay.
But yeah, it's not as like cronyism or corruptionism as people think of, like, oh, they paid somebody off. SIG may actually have paid somebody off. I don't know, because like the general in charge went to work for them afterwards.
Yeah.
After he left the military, so like the guy, NGSW is a mess, but well, that's a story for another day. At least parts of it are.
Yeah, I'm super curious. I genuinely am. I don't know a lot about how this stuff works, but I see so much stuff like the NGSW thing happens, and you could go even further back. You know how many weapons supposedly would take like all the M4 killers, all the AR killers,
a lot of that is just like, so the funny thing with the M4 killer contracts,
Yeah.
a lot of it is like they'll have a threshold of like it has to perform X% better, and usually nothing ever does. Like the funny thing with the M4, like the 416 SCAR replacement, like they were going to adopt either the 416 or the SCAR to replace the M4 back in like 2010.
Yeah, I
when
remember
they switched,
that. And
they
this
switched
goes way back.
So like both the 416 and the SCAR had better like malfunction performance than the M4, and then they switched to PMags, and the M4 beat everything.
Ha!
It was just the mag. It was just the shitty GI mags.
I did not know that, but that's
it's hilarious. Yeah, just crappy old aluminum magazines that were probably worn out is what they were using. And then they bought some PMags off the shelf and tried them out, and the M4 had a lower malfunction rate than like a SCAR or 416 in any condition, which was hilarious. Because the Armalite platform it's been developed for 60 years, and I'm still working on developing stuff for it. But it's pretty good. It's pretty well thought out, and it's pretty well engineered at this point. It took them a while to get there. Like getting shorter barrels was a problem for a long time, because like figuring out a gas port size and the buffer system, because like when you bring the gas ports back closer to the chamber, obviously the pressures go up, and then you've got to balance that out, because you're going to get a higher bolt carrier velocity, you're going to shear bolt lugs faster, so you got to balance that out. So it's like buffer systems, H3 buffer, just it's a band-aid solution really. I've worked on some things that help alleviate that. But it's always like just a balancing act of trying to tune your gun. You got to balance out the system to keep your bolt carrier velocity down, keep it reliable. A lot of this has to do with machine guns, but semi-auto too. The AR is designed to be fairly like rugged, in terms of like bolt life and that kind of thing, because it's when the gas comes in the key, it's supposed to push the bolt forwards when it rotates, so it's not actually grinding against the extension. And on the shorter guns, just because of the higher gas pressure, it'll still hit a little bit and grind. So that's what like a lot of companies try to do. Colt back in the day, it took them a while to figure it out, because you also have to figure out the spacing from the gas port to the end of the barrel, and like that's your time under pressure for the gas system. So you have to get that. Yeah, uncorking time, dwell time, whatever you want to call it, just to keep the gun pressurized. And that's where like I've done some work on gas ports and different gas port setups to kind of alleviate some of that. Shorter barrels, you can have different buffer type setups. Like I know you run an A5.
I do. BCM Mark II on one, Vieltor A5.
Yeah, and the A5's pretty good, but like if you have a properly gassed gun, you really don't need it, in my opinion. Like you should be able to get away with H3, H2. You can also change spring weights.
Yeah,
Like
I've used the Geisley H3 buffer weight. If that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the the Geisley Super 42 is also a good spring. It's a little stronger than a regular recoil spring.
Yeah, I've tried that and it worked pretty well. I'm really happy with my A5 rifle setup right now. I kind of always wondered why that wasn't the norm.
Yeah, like another interesting one is like the Surefire OBC. That's always a cool one because it's so it was developed by Jim Sullivan, one of the original guys on the original M16 project back in the 1950s, and AR-10, AR-15 project. He also defined the Ultimax machine gun, if you're familiar with that. But he's big into constant recoil.
Yeah. Well, what is that?
So constant recoil is where the basically when you're bolt cycling or bolt carrier cycling, the spring and the bolt carrier never bottom out. So they never hit the back of the receiver. They kind of just slowly decelerate and then accelerate back forwards on the spring.
Interesting. And I imagine that takes tuning.
It takes a lot of bit of tuning. It's kind of a little bit ammo specific.
Yeah.
But what you get is you don't get the jarring recoil impulse. It kind of just floats. The Knight's Armament light assault machine gun does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. There's a video of Ian McCollum Forgotten Weapons shooting that thing, and it's basically like holding out in front of him, and the thing doesn't move.
That's really cool.
Because you can balance the system to run.
Yeah, but I would imagine that does take a lot.
Yeah, so the Surefire OBC is cool because it has a shorter gas key, and it's got a special buffer that has a longer stroke, so the bolt carrier actually moves farther back, and it has a weight in it, like a sliding weight in the bolt carrier.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool setup. I've got one of my rifles. It does kind of the same thing as the A5. It just makes a longer bolt stroke.
Yeah.
And no matter what your gas port is, like if you got an overgas barrel, it's going to take a lot of the energy out of it because it's got more mass and it has to move farther, so it's going to have more time to decelerate, and it slows down your dwell time.
Yeah.
And your cycle time. So that it's a pretty neat setup. It works best on machine guns. On semi-auto rifles, most people don't shoot enough.
For it to really make a difference.
Yeah. But like on a machine gun, when you're running full auto, it really helps. You can keep your rounds on target pretty easily.
That's really cool.
So that's a neat one.
Yeah. I remember trying the SIG, their new machine gun in that silly caliber.
Oh, what was it? 6.8 51. It's the M250.
Yeah, I think this was actually the rifle. I tried the machine gun too, but this was just a select fire rifle.
XM7.
And that thing was overgassed.
I have yet to see an MCX that isn't overgassed. I've seen them break triggers as low as like 300 rounds.
Holy shit! Yeah, no,
they beat themselves to death really quickly. SIG really kind of overgassed those things. I see everybody like praising them too, and everyone I've ever messed with has been a piece of junk. So I don't know where the praise comes from.
Yeah, no, I genuinely don't know. It sucks because I really want to like them for what they are. Short stroke gas piston, AR alike that shares like 80 different parts compatibility or whatever.
I just don't think they're engineered that well because like they also have the barrel zero issue, and like nobody seems to address that much. Like, oh, MCX is a great gun. It's a tactical gun. It's like these things beat themselves to death in like a few thousand rounds. I remember seeing Mike's video, Garantham's video on the MCX Spear, and like he's got some clips in there when he first got the gun, and it's ejecting 4 o'clock where it's supposed a gun's properly gassed, properly tuned rifle should be ejecting of an AR-15, AR-18 platform with a suppressor. It's ejecting 4 o'clock, and 4,000 rounds later, unsuppressed, it's ejecting like 1 o'clock. That's a pretty bad sign that the gun is beating itself to death and like
that's bad.
Eating its gas port.
Yeah.
It's just some things I've observed. I won't try not to hate on SIG too much, but I'm not a huge fan of their rifles.
Yeah,
I haven't seen good things.
I really like their 226s and like some of their hammer guns, but
yeah, their hammer pistols are pretty good.
But like the overgassed quick contract rifle. I've seen something similar with the HK416. There's a guy we had in the show that was issued one for doing team stuff, and it was so overgassed it would malfunction.
Huh. Yeah, I have seen that. The HK would issue different, like, for depending on like what gun was going where, they would have like different gas blocks they'd put on them. I think, if I'm correct. I
Yeah.
haven't had too much experience on 416s,
Yeah,
just because like
I think
they're on a premium.
I don't know how true this is, and like this is just kind of HK slander here. Um, they would eventually shear the, you know the threads in the front of your upper receiver.
Yeah.
Eventually, would just shear those off with the barrel nut.
Oof.
And I've seen quite a few pictures of that. I mean, I haven't.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen that happen with like 300 Blackout and everything in ARs.
Yeah, but
Which,
that is unfortunate. That is, I understand combat guessing and why people would do it, but not
like
to the
certain
point where,
guns, like
yeah.
like it's you gotta again like you gotta also engineer the gun to where it's not gonna eat itself and not gonna break parts more than it should.
Yeah.
Because like you should be able to, if properly tuned to AR, you should be able to get 20, 30,000 rounds out of a bolt.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to replace springs before then, like extractor, ejector, such they'll wear out after 3,000 or 4,000 rounds. Gas rings at 3,000 to 4,000.
Yeah.
But your bolts should last well over 10,000 rounds, 10 to 20,000 rounds.
Yeah, and
like that's one thing I also have seen in the industry.
Yeah.
Where like some companies will claim that like, oh, I know how much this, or CEOs of companies will claim, oh, I know how much everyone else makes it for, or how much I make it for. Everyone else is just price gouging, and it's like the cheapest bottom barrel AR manufacturers. And you're like, no, that's not true. Metallurgy and like engineering really do play a part in making good parts and high quality guns and barrels. Because we were talking about a little bit about that before the podcast. If we want to get into that.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've been using a Daniel Defense 14.5 barrel lately. I just switched it out not too long ago, and there was, and again, I acknowledge that this is me shooting off a bag, at a flat range. I was shooting 3.5, 4-inch groups. I was starting to think, hey, am I stupid? I mean,
What,
don't
what ammo
answer
were
that.
you using?
And I was genuinely, because this happens every few years. I'll get a barrel that I think I shoot okay with, and I shoot a fair amount, once, twice a week. Sometimes, the distance is a little stretched, but something I do fairly often is, do warm-up groups at 100. We're shooting, 4-inch groups with a PMC X-Tac, which is probably what I have the most of.
Is that M193 or M855?
855.
Okay, yeah, green tip always doesn't shoot that great.
Yeah,
but it should be a little better.
Yeah, but switching to Criterion, because I eventually got sick of it, moved to 14.5 Criterion mid-length, and the exact same situations. Those groups shrunk to about an inch.
Yeah, that's Criterion makes really good barrels, and yeah, like picking a good barrel on the AR is like something that not a lot of people, at least in general, I've been to a lot of matches where people just have guns that malfunction every like 10 rounds and think it's normal.
Yeah,
but yeah, a good barrel really does make a gun way more capable than previously. And like Daniel Defense is a mil spec barrel. Like
yes.
The military requires like 3 MOA, 3.5 MOA, and that, it can meet that. I mean, if you shoot better ammo like 77s, which I know they're expensive, you'll probably get closer to like 1.5 inches with a DD barrel. I've shot a fair number of them.
And I was shooting some Hornady Black, and it wasn't super expensive stuff. It was slightly better loaded, bulk ammo, and it was shooting 1.5. I want to say.
Yeah,
but
like, I'm gonna piss off the DD crowd and just kind of call the DDs are kind of meh in my opinion. Like it's basically a mil spec gun with a nice handguard on it, and you're paying like Knight's Armament Geisley prices for it, which is not cool in my opinion. And they're also tend to be kind of gassy. But I mean, their barrels are good. They're available for the general shooter because most people can't shoot 1 MOA. Like at the end of the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a contract gun. Like it is a combat rifle, and it's built for that. And I'm not going to pretend, the horse that pulls the cart is the same horse that races on the track, or whatever analogy you want to. They're two totally different purposes.
Right.
With that being said, like I would rather have a barrel that groups the ammunition that I have the most of well than have to buy buck
special
around
ammo.
or like 77
Yeah.
RPMs.
Yeah, PSA 77s, they're like 60 cents a round, but they're
I've heard they're good.
they're
There's a guy
pretty
in the
good.
Discord that
They're pretty
really
good.
likes them. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
you have to kind of be picky with your lots.
yeah.
Like between lots, they're very inconsistent. So if you get a bunch, you get it all from the same lot.
Yeah.
But
No, that's very.
they seem
fair.
to be pretty good for the money, which props to PSA for putting some quality ammo out.
Yeah.
At least
No, I
in that.
appreciate them.
I did get a batch of their 9mm that would like light strike every other round, so that was fun.
Yeah. All
but
by lots.
Yep.
But yeah. What's their sub company called? AAC, America's
yeah,
Ammo
AAC
Company.
ammo. Yeah, I actually shot some of their 6.5 Creedmoor ammo, and it shoots really good. Like I'd put it on par with like almost not quite Hornady, but it's getting close. Since their Hollow Point Boattail 140 grain 6.5 Creedmoor shoots really good.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
We've used that a lot for some testing, just because at work, because it's cheaper than Hornady or Federal.
Yeah, you're shooting a ton anyway. I found Federal groups like absolute fucking shit for me. Like American
interesting.
Eagle. I think that maybe that was my barrel too.
It could be yeah, I don't know. It depends. There's always a combo of things, but like
since moving to Criterion for like the third time in my life, I'm finding all the ammos that I thought were shit, and then every time it's like surprise Pikachu face. It kind of takes me aback, even though this is a cycle that keeps happening. I'll move to some other barrel and it'll be dog shit, and then dog shit with like crappy cheap ammo, admittedly.
Yeah.
And then I'll move to Criterion again. I should just buy that, or like a Geisley barrel, or there's a company that we're doing some work with, and they sent me a barrel called Two Grunts. It's like nitride lined.
Okay.
So
I tend to prefer a chrome line barrel over the nitride, but it depends on what you're doing.
Supposedly, you can squeeze like MOA around with bulk 855, so I'm looking forward to trying.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd really interested to hear about that. I haven't heard of them before.
Yeah, they're newer. They're formerly Field Seats. I like those guys. I got their barrel. I just have to slap it in.
Yeah.
But it's going to head to head against my Criterion, so I'm going to be pretty autistic about what I think about it.
Yeah, it's really hard to beat a Criterion, or like, I've shot a few of the newer Geisley barrels, and they're shooting like, I was getting 0.6 MOA, 0.7 with IMI 77 grain ammo, and
holy
like
shit,
2-inch groups with Winchester white box.
Yeah, that's good.
So it was like, oh, this is really good. I have a friend who got a 16-inch Geisley barrel. He's up in New Hampshire, and he was shooting 400 yards on an ACOG and got 5-inch groups with PMC X-Tac.
Jesus. Okay, that is quite impressive.
It was very impressive. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So
I can't say I've ever tried the Geisley barrels. I've tried a lot of like I use Geisley triggers and whatnot, and I'm thinking of one of their handguards and building out 11.5 or something. But one of these days. But yeah, the big thing is like BCM and Daniel Defense barrels for me did not perform to the standard I wanted them to. The standard I wanted them to doesn't necessarily mean they're bad,
right? But they're combat barrels.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to do a little better, you need to go a little higher quality, like Criterion, Geisley.
Yeah. If I buy a gun, I would like it to be able to shoot from a bench as well. I'd like to actually be able to 3 MOA versus 1 MOA. If you're shooting something at like 300 yards, that's a 9.
Right. It does make a difference, especially if you're shooting something small like a groundhog or something like that.
Like the results of having an inaccurate barrel become exponential at range.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, again, like accuracy is a cone of fire.
Yeah.
Or you get a cone of accuracy is like 1 inch at 100 yards is 10 inches at 1,000. It's kind of linear. There's just a myth going around that like certain bullets will settle down at like 200 yards or something like that.
What?
There's a myth, like you might have like a 3-inch group at 100 yards, but like a 2-inch group at 200.
What the fuck?
And like, I don't think that's true.
I don't know.
It doesn't work, because like if you read like Applied Ballistics, and Brian Litz has some really good stuff dispelling those myths. I like Applied Ballistics. They do some weird stuff with that, like just dispelling myths and testing like precision stuff. But like, your gun, they'll like line up pieces of paper out to 1,000 yards and shoot through them. and so you can actually see the cone of fire.
That's really cool.
And like it is a linear thing, no matter the bullet or gun or whatever. I think that some of it is like somebody's like real shaky at 100 yards, but like they try to concentrate more at 200. If I had to guess, I don't know.
I do find, and this is probably a skill issue, I often shoot better at a slightly lower magnification or at a
when I shoot like PRS or like some like gas gun long range matches, I tend to keep it on like a lower magnification.
Yeah.
Like I run it on like 9 power or 10 power at the match I usually shoot.
Yeah, I feel like that may be a factor. You know, people get sucked into the movement of their target when it's
if you're zoomed all the way in, you can watch your reticle shake with your heartbeat. It's it might throw you off a little bit.
Yeah. So I do a lot of shooting at like 4 to 8x, even maybe like 14. I don't even max any of my optics out.
Yeah, you don't really need to unless you want to get like shooting a group.
Yeah,
really precisely.
No, 100%. So I know you shoot a little bit of PRS, like local matches and whatnot. So you actually have a bit of a experience doing that.
Yeah. I shoot the I live in PA, so there's a few like decent like there's an IMI gas gun match. I don't do like bolt gun PRS. I've done it a few times, but I don't have a gun for it at the moment. There's like a Geisley does a gas gun match. IWI does a gas gun match up here in PA, and it's a really good time. Just like rifle pistol out to 800 yards. You're usually shooting 2 MOA targets or so, and it really like shooting in movement. Like it really tests your gear and equipment. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it seems really actually cool. What caliber do you shoot for that? I noticed you use a gas gun.
I shoot a 6 arc.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic cartridge. It like it does everything Hornady advertised it to do, and more.
How do you like it? I've heard about like cracking bolt faces and stuff, but that the performance is really good. Like again, I'm just a guy. I hear what stuff on the internet that's probably horrifically exaggerated.
Like there's some people out there who figured out a better bolt. And a gun tailored for it. It shoots really good. Yeah. 6 arc as a cartridge though, like the military is already using it, so it's got that going for it. It gives you the ability to touch stuff at 1,000 yards with the standard AR-15 size rifle, and it shoots like a 6mm BR cartridge. If you're familiar with that, it's like a Bench-Rest like PRS type bolt gun cartridge, but you can shoot it out of a AR.
Really, so, like a AR-10 or an AR-15? I just know so
6mm 6mm BR is like a Bench-Rest. It's got a 308 bolt face. It's for bolt guns, but like 6mm arc kind of mimics that out of a small frame AR platform, which is really cool. So you can have a fairly light rifle that you can shoot 1,000+ yards with.
Yeah,
easily.
I know that
you barely have to hold for wind. Because the good 6mm bullets with a good high ballistic coefficient really cut through the wind well.
That's cool. I know like 6 Max does that pretty well, but
yeah,
those are.
We'll see if it gets out of Wildcat. 6mm arc at least is available. I hear rumors that some more companies are going to start making ammo soon.
Yeah.
It's honestly it's a really good cartridge. I think it would be a better cartridge for like next gen squad weapon than whatever SIG's doing right now. So because like it gives your regular guy the ability to reach out and touch 1,000-yard targets or 1,000 meters. And I mean, it's the one I shoot is boring. It's like I shoot 1,000 yards and it's just like, oh, I hit 1,000 yards. Okay, move on. It's like it's not even fun anymore.
Jeez, man, that's actually really cool. I don't have a lot of time under that. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've shot at 1,000 in my life, and I'm not very good at it. Like I've got a 6.5 Creedmoor bolt gun, and haven't shot a lot of PRS with it or anything really to speak of. But
PRS
the whole
PRS is interesting because you really have to know like your wind holds and your like because even like aiming downhill versus uphill or versus flat, it changes your dope slightly. So like you got to really be dialed in on the weather and the wind and like knowing your gun as well, which is it's a pretty good challenge. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Um, People can get off into the weeds with gear of it. Like people always love to get different bags and stuff to try
Yeah.
to shoot off of with that.
So you, as someone who shoots a lot of PRS, uses a lot of gas guns, uses a lot of like works with these things for a living, it's no secret you're an AR guy. Like that's kind of
Yeah,
your bread and butter.
yeah, it's what I've done the most. So what platform would I recommend? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
if it
I would
was
say?
not that, I'm just curious as to.
Not an AR. Ooh, that's
Yes.
a hard one.
Yep, I
Um,
know.
that's really hard. Honestly, the CZ Bren 2 seems like a pretty solid gun right now. They've gotten a lot of combat service in Ukraine,
I've
and they're
seen that
performing
the
very
barrels have a
well.
very low life. I don't know how true that
I
is.
I don't know. I think I've shot one once. But
Yeah.
like just seeing what people are saying in Ukraine about like NATO guns, those things seem to be holding up really well to the point where Ukraine has licensed to produce them. So
That's awesome.
they're
Yeah,
doing really good. The MSBS Grot is another good one. The Polish like ACR looking thing. Those are interesting too. If it wasn't AR-15, I'd go AR-18. I actually have an original AR-18, like
that's
Armalite
awesome.
one, like the whole like IRA type gun. It's
Yes.
I got that in my high power. I got to go shoot a 2-gun match with those, and with some British DPM camo and with the
Yeah.
whole IRA vibe.
Dude, what's kind of interesting is Canada after the I've probably brought this up in the show before. Canada after the assault weapon ban, before like when AR-15s got banned back in 2020, the whole cottage industry of rebuilding modernized AR-18s and AR-180s
Interesting.
came
That's
about.
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So like there's a lot of, and you can just buy them non-restricted as like a hunting rifle or whatever.
Right.
Just
Just a
unfortunately
loophole.
enough, Canada doesn't have a lot of super great gunsmiths.
Yeah.
So the metallurgy's all fucked, and everything
Ooh.
likes to beat itself apart. Like,
Yeah, that is one of the things with the AR-18 is like you got to really like those platforms. You really have to balance like unlocking and getting it tuned right, and the
yeah,
geometry of the bolt lugs correct on those.
yeah,
Because like Stoner got it right on the AR-18, the original one.
yeah.
HK did it right with the 416 and G36. At least for making sure they don't shear bolt lugs. But like a lot of your piston AR, like you're like some of those like aftermarket kits you can buy to install. A lot of those just again beat your gun to death, or like
Yeah, like I had bolt lugs shear and hit me in the face once from
ugh,
someone else's, like horrifically overgassed.
oof. Yeah, that's never fun. Um, those things also induce a lot of carrier tilt too. If you get them the aftermarket, like AR-15, like upgrade to piston kits, because that's something people don't think about is like the carrier actually tilting in a receiver. Cause a lot of wear and damage on the upper.
Yeah, that does not sound good. That is also a problem with Canadian ARs as well. If you looked on the inside of the upper, it was all scarred up and dinged up, and usually along the cam track and otherwise. But
Yeah,
like those
yeah. The
guns,
cam track, even like regular AR-15s, if you shoot them enough, you'll see the cam pin will ride and rub on the upper, and like that's normal wear. Like
yeah,
you shouldn't be worried about like you got clear spots in your anodizing on your upper after like shooting it a bunch. That's normal. But if it happens in like 15 rounds, that's a problem.
yeah. No, this was like deep gouges that you could get your
Oof.
nails into within a couple hundred.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing is like a lot of manufacturers there, like you really need the type 3 anodizing,
Yeah,
like type 3 anodizing hard coat, because like if you do type 2 and a lot of companies, like especially like red anodized parts, which don't get me started about red anodized AR
oh, I'm
parts,
getting you fucking
because
started on red anodizing. This is now a Strike Industries hate podcast.
yeah, if you put red parts into your gun, you're poor, and I automatically judge you. So
Yeah,
it's just like no taste.
yeah,
But like a lot of those companies to get those colors, because type 3 hard coat you can't get consistent colors with, which is why most people just do black. And there's only a couple companies in the industry that do colored type 3. And because it's like it actually puts like a diamond hard layer. Like my rifle, I run a Geisley Super Duty, and I have one of the Ferrocompus Slimsters for
Yeah.
slingsters with the metal loops, and like it'll scratch the upper, but it's actually scratching the sling loop, the steel sling loop, and not the
Not the other way
anodizing.
around.
Yeah, because like I can wipe the scratches off. But there's a lot of these companies it's type 2 anodizing, and it's just for color. It doesn't actually put a hardened layer on the surface of the material, so you still got soft aluminum, and that'll stretch and it's going to snap pretty quickly. Like I've seen some buffer tubes break from like type 2. So that's something you
Really?
got to look out for. It's also like some companies will just Cerakote guns they'll blast all the anodizing off and then Cerakote it, and that's like you just ruin like what the structural rigidity of the anodizing.
I did not know that actually made a like a structural difference to the gun.
Yeah, it's like a case hardening almost on anodizing if you do
Really?
type 3 hard coat.
That's
So it makes
kinda
it
cool.
very tough, and it actually
Yeah.
like adds to wear resistance and longevity of parts.
Yeah, but I
So
didn't
when I
think it
see
would
when I
actually
see
affect
people
like shear strength or anything.
when people when I see people like Cerakote and AR upper and they blast all the anodizing off to where it's like shiny metal, I'm just like like
That's
don't
good
do
to know.
that.
Oh, I for one believe in rattle can supremacy.
Yes, absolutely. Spray paint all
Yeah.
your stuff.
Spray paint all your stuff.
Cerakote is good.
Yeah,
It is
I'm kind of
nice.
like eating my tail here because I'm learning how to Cerakote, but
Yeah, I mean it's good to know how to do it. It's a good coating for certain things.
yeah.
It's really good on bolt guns. It looks really nice on a good Cerakoted bolt gun with like a hand painted stock or like a painted stock. That's
Yeah.
another thing we learned how to do in school is like paint stocks and like do Cerakote and actually like I was the last class at my school to actually learn how to hand carve a gunsmith like a wood stock. Like they had
Really?
us like hand tools, take a block of wood and turn it into a rifle stock.
That's kind of
And
cool, actually. I understand why
it's
that would be removed from curriculum.
it's like more bespoke gunsmithing, and like it's not really common because like back in the day, like you could just pay a gunsmith to do that to fix your stock or just make a new one. But like nowadays, that costs so much money, and like the only places that really do that anymore are like the custom, like bespoke shotgun places like Beretta or like Holland and Holland, places like that. Um, and they've since replaced that class with another pistol class. So you have one class like dedicated to like customizing revolvers, and then another to like we got to build on our own 1911 from Nighthawk, a Nighthawk kit, and actually
Nighthawk
hand fit
sells
all apart.
kits?
Well, they did to us for school because we had a connection, and like we could like pick which parts we wanted, but everything had to be hand fit, so it was almost like not quite finished parts.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's
that's what
still
we
cool.
did.
Did you get to keep it afterwards?
Yeah, like we pay for that's part of your tuition is you pay for all the stuff, and you just pay for all your projects. That's one thing where I will say everybody hates on the NRA.
Yeah.
I got through gunsmithing school on NRA scholarships because
Really?
they would basically like give you money to go to gunsmithing school, and like I was able to pay for most of my projects through NRA scholarships, and like most of my tuition, actually all of my tuition was on NRA scholarships.
That's
So
fucking
it
awesome.
really that's the one thing the NRA that and like gun safety education is the one thing the NRA still does really good. So they may suck from a politics standpoint, but they still do some
Yeah,
good.
like the leadership is garbage. But I hear
Yeah.
from a lot of people that we have on the show and otherwise, the leadership is fucking garbage. But the local level people are usually very
Yo,
good.
absolutely.
And a lot of the programs they put on are very very good.
Yeah, their what the Eddie Eagle like gun safety stuff is really awesome for kids.
Yeah.
And like 4-H stuff. But yeah, that was one of the things I will say that got me through school. But yeah, we got to keep all of our projects at school because like most of the stuff you got ask your buddy, hey, you got a gun that needs fixing or like painting or something like that, and you do that. So it's pretty cool. So I got some pretty nice guns out of it. I
That's
got
actually awesome. Like
the
make
very
your own
last
Nighthawk.
yeah
Heck, that's
yeah
tuition alone right there.
yeah I will brag a little bit. I had the best grouping 1911 on my class.
That's awesome.
That was actually finished. There was one guy that had a better group than me, but he hadn't finished cutting his slide or put sights on it yet because we were shooting him out of a ransom rest.
Ah,
Um,
did
and
you
he
rifle
died
the
up.
barrel yourself, or
No, that's
or
not
is it just
something.
like the fitting of the slide to the
It's
frame?
fitting, like fitting the locking lugs and fitting the bushing and fitting the slide to the frame. And on stainless steel, that's really easy to mess up because stainless steel really likes to gall.
Yeah,
And like rip itself up and like try to weld itself together.
that's
So you got to be careful.
That's really cool. I saw a video the other day of someone hand fitting a Glock, and I use the word hand fitting kind of nebulously there.
Some people's barrels, like EGW, makes some Glock barrels that are need to be hand fit to like fit the locking um lug to the slide and everything.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. I had an EGW kit. Like I had to. It's been like 4 hours fitting one of their kits to an old 2011 that I had.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they make pretty good stuff.
yeah, no, they really do. But yeah, the fitting of the Glock slide to the frame was legitimately just a fella. And this is Johnny Glock. He's forgotten more about Glocks than I'll ever learn.
Oh yeah, I
But
have one of his triggers. They're awesome.
yeah, oh dude, they're fantastic. Zero relation. He has no idea who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
But genuinely, like I run his or similar triggers and fucking everything. But he's smacking the fuck out of his slide along the rails with just a giant wood mallet, and then using prying a screwdriver if he went too far. And everything about it seems wrong, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure that
So
that is common. Yeah.
the funny you mentioned the hammer, because like there's a reason most gunsmiths won't let their customers watch them work.
Yeah, I
We'd
believe
use
it.
a lot more hammers than people would like to know
Yeah.
probably, and like that's a legitimate thing to like fit a like slide. Like some people use lapping compound and like put lapping compound between the slide and the frame and like lap it in. I
Yeah.
really don't. You really shouldn't do that for like a 1911 because lapping compound will get in the pores of the metal, and then will continue to lap your gun well after you wanted it to stop.
Oh shit! I may have done that
Um,
on an AR actually. I don't. It wasn't lapping compound.
you're
It was.
probably fine.
Oh, dude, no. I might be retarded. It was. What was it? It was just that polishing shit you get at Walmart.
Oh yeah, like flits or whatever.
Brasso.
Or Brasso. Oh no, you're fine.
It
It's like I'm talking about like the dedicated lapping compounds.
okay,
Like
okay. That makes more sense.
yeah,
I
Brasso
slathered
you
it
should
on.
be fine.
Yeah,
But like yeah, you can and if the metal's uncoated, you might have some issues.
yeah. No,
Um,
I hand fit a Springfield Prodigy doing
okay.
that and with a hammer. I mean, I use the word hand fit very loosely.
Yeah, just
But
kind of like garage gunsmith it back into function.
garage gunsmith. But holy fuck, did it make a difference?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Couldn't
getting
air
everything,
wrap it, though, almost.
getting any of the burrs smooth on a gun is really
Yeah.
important. Kind of.
Speaking of which, this is now an HK hate podcast as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I got my hands on a VP9. Not mine. I just opened it up and took a look at it, and holy fuck, the machining is bad. It's bad. It's really bad. I'll send, like I took a diamond file to it, like the
Oof.
chatter along the rails, like the slide, like the rails where the slide ride on. You could chip a fingernail in there.
Oh geez, yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, that's
like
literally pretty rough.
I've seen some like stuff where like, did this get made on like a Friday afternoon? Did a tool break? It's like, oh my.
Yeah.
I've tested a few guns from some companies, and it's just like this is awful. Like we had one company AR that I tested that like we tried to pull the bolt back. It's just like gritty, like sand in there. Like,
Oh, dude, who was that?
like should I say it was a PSA AR we were just messing with. Just like trying it out just because it was like, let's see how this works. Like for the cheapest thing you can get, and like, oh yeah, this is pretty cheap. But I mean, that's what PSA is. They're rifle for the masses. So like,
I really
it's a
like
$400
PSA.
AR for a reason.
Yeah.
I like their business, like their mission statement, but they still do put out sometimes not so good stuff.
Of course, I think it's kind of
they have a good
economy of
customer
scale
service
thing.
department.
Yeah,
Again, like they make a gazillion $400 rifles.
Yeah.
And like eventually, like not all of those are gonna work. So like, and like all the parts and QC stuff gets missed. Like there's no company in the industry that has had a perfect record for QC. So I'll just go ahead and say that because like everybody's messed up at some point. Manufacturing and machining is hard. Like engineering is hard.
yeah.
Like,
All
I've
of
seen-
these are hard.
It's like getting everything to fit in tolerance and together. It's like it's a way bigger deal than most people realize. It's not like you just put a program in a CNC machine and press a button, it comes out, it spits out a perfect part every time.
Yeah.
does not work like that at all. Like you
Yeah.
have to do some fiddling and some finagling to make everything like for 10,000 parts all works the same.
Yeah, it's there has to be a human element, I think.
Absolutely.
Like I've seen
Like
companies with very poor QC, but fantastic, CNC and processes and everything else in terms of their manufacturing. And I'm not going to name drop exactly who they are. We talked about it before the podcast. A higher end rifle manufacturer, and that's the difference. Having a team of people who know how to do basic quality control, who get paid more
right.
than $15 an hour. I think that's also a big thing. It's like pay people what they're worth.
Right.
I understand. Some companies, uh, you know, especially manufacturers making cheaper rifles. I understand. You cut costs where you can because that saving trickles down to the consumer. If you're building $3,000 rifles and you have a heritage and you are paying people what they'd be making in McDonald's or less, I I think it's predatory. I think they're taking advantage of people who want to work in the industry.
Yeah, to an extent there.
Yeah.
I mean, it also depends on like how much does it cost to build the rifle. Like if it
Yes.
costs you like $2,500 to make a $3,000 rifle, you gotta find some places. But like you definitely should never like pay people like minimum wage to build guns because it never ends up happening because you don't pay them enough to care at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also need to find people that again have a passion for it. And again, good gunsmiths will generally have a passion for what they do and want to make a good product or make a stuff because like you can find some really good custom gunsmiths out there still, like custom bolt guns, ARs, that kind of stuff, who really do a good job, but you're going to pay a premium because that's the other thing with gunsmithing is you get the people who are like, oh, why are you charging like $500 to fix this gun? It was my granddaddy's gun. Like, can't you just fix it for $30?
Yeah.
It's like
It's like
not how
your
that
time is
works.
worth more than that.
Right, like time, parts, labor. I gotta pay off my CNC, or not necessarily CNC, but like I got a Bridgeport and lathe back there that I need to pay off. Um, stuff like that. It's like
Yeah.
it takes time to set something up. Like
And
a lot of people just have
even
no
then, it's like you're
concept of
paying for skilled labor.
right. Like you've paid some. You're paying an expert to do an expert's job.
Yeah.
Because you can't. But yeah, it's always the crowd. It's a lot. Most of the time, it's the just as good crowd. That's
Yeah.
like that. Most people are pretty like willing to pay for what it's worth, especially like when it comes to precision rifles. Like the people will pay up to 10 grand for a PRS gun, like a good
Yeah.
bolt gun.
Yeah. There's a local fella who has a $6,000 PRS gun.
And like
yeah.
they're worth the money. You get a gunsmith who will that's what we were taught to do in school is hand fit basically, or not necessarily hand fit, precision machine a like receiver to a barrel, like true take a I took a $300 Walmart Remington 700 and turned it into like a $4,000 gun.
Was that through school or was that just for you?
That was through school. That's actually how you learn is by working on your own guns. They tell you to go buy them and you go work on them. Like so you had to do a Remington 700. So I took like somebody's Walmart special they hunted with. I bought it for $300 off a guy, and like the barrel was bent. It was all rusty. Like, a lot of barrels came out of Remington bent anyway. So,
Really?
like their quality control was awful. Like especially towards the end when like things were falling apart. They're all over the place. But like I took it, I trued up the face of the receiver, I trued up the locking lugs. I actually lapped the locking lugs in so they had like almost 100% contact. Because like a lot of bolt guns from the factory, they'll have like only one lug touching, like actual contacting for recoil, and some, especially like Remingtons, the post 2000s Remingtons are bad about that. Drew up the locking lugs, drew up the bolt. I actually had to bush the bolt face and cut a new extractor because I went from a 30-06 to a 300 Win Mag. We'll turn the barrel. We actually took the recoil lugs and surface ground them to be parallel within a 10,000th of an inch, and then like indicate everything in to where our tolerances for our barrels was within 2/10,000ths of an inch when we were doing this manual and out lathe, to cut the chamber, cut the barrel threads and everything to just to make sure everything aligns perfectly when you're shooting, and that
Yeah.
it does help. Like, definitely does help.
Yeah, that's a sort of attention to detail you can't just get from hitting go on a CNC machine. Just like
Right.
pumping out part piece after piece after piece.
Right. So there is still a niche for custom gunsmithing out there.
I think so.
Especially like that. You always have people, especially people with money, who will pay absurd amounts for guns. Like
Yeah.
Holland and Holland, they're $300,000 shotguns. Like, you can buy a house for that.
Yeah. That's
But
actually...
it's still a niche.
Yeah.
And at that point, they're more works of art than they are firearms.
Yeah, you see the custom 1911 market or PRS.
Oh, definitely. Like Nighthawk or like Cabot or
yeah. I really like Cabot.
They're cool. They make some really cool stuff.
Yeah, them and Alchemy, I think their sister brand.
Yeah.
We had Commando Bond on a little while ago.
Yeah, I remember listening to that episode. That was a good episode.
Yeah, he's a good guy. It got me thinking about Staccato again, which are not custom high end. They're
high end.
But they're not hand.
Yeah.
Which but they used to be STI, which I believe were
they've had
hand fit production competition handguns before
they started out like that, I think, and then they went to mass manufacture, and they still have some quality stuff. Like, I think like Ben Stoker, the USPSA shooter, recently got one that was not doing well. I think TRX Arms had one that was kind of choking on him recently. But like, again, 2011s are a bit finicky anyway. There's a few companies that do like hand fit 2011 still, and they're worth their money. You're gonna pay
like
I think one coworker had one. I think it was an Atlas he had that was like $6,000 2011. Man, it was smooth. Like, the slide had no rattle, no play.
Yeah,
like, that's what you want. But it's a hand fit gun by a gunsmith.
Yeah. I think that what's that company? Stealth Arms. They make the platypus.
Yes, I was actually about to bring that up. Those things are cool as heck, and I want one. They are
so cool.
One of my coworkers just ordered one, so we'll see. He ordered like a pink one for his wife.
That's awesome.
Like pink and all sorts of colors, because you can custom build, and they have a custom builder on their website. It's pretty cool.
I want to get them on. Like, I want one of the younger guys on, because they're fucking funny. Like,
I've never met any of those guys, but they.
Neither have I, but I eavesdropped at their booth at SHOT Show. Just played with some of their guns, and it seems to be a family kind of business. Like,
that's
some
cool.
Older guys who are basically like liver spots and basically like probably don't know how to do anything other than like eat, sleep, and build 1911s. And other than that, they're basically nonverbal. And then there's young guys who are like hard into meme culture.
Just a mix of just good product and good marketing there.
Yeah, I like that, because the gun sells itself too. And
definitely, especially like the Perry the Platypus model. That one's hilarious.
Yeah, have you you know that meme I'm talking about, like the big black guy sitting on the bed looking at the camera? He's
unfortunately,
like a Johnson.
Yep.
They had a sticker at their booth, and I regret not grabbing one of just that exact picture, but it's a platypus.
That's fantastic.
I love that. They seemed like a lot of their staff were like young gun kid Zoomers, probably on K. I hope one of you are listening to this, or one of your friends are listening to this, and you can put us in touch so we can fucking talk about platypus dicks. But yeah, no, they had hand fit stuff, and I kind of like went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Like, hey, an Atlas is $6,000. A platypus is like starting around 1,500.
13 to 15. Yeah,
and they
pretty affordable for 2011.
They are, and they feel damn near the same.
They are aluminum frame, where a lot of others are steel frames, but that's a minor complaint. A lot of like high round count shooters will prefer the steel frame.
Yeah, like stopping from mushrooming out, or
just aluminum is softer; it'll wear over time. But like for your average guy who wants a good pistol, like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. And apparently a lot of that too is like the ridiculous lead times help keep costs down. Like very like how they do their slide cuts, smart use of CNC machines. But other than that, the steel and aluminum isn't fantastic, but I doubt I'll ever hit a round count that matters. Maybe.
Yeah, if you go past like 60,000 rounds on the same pistol, that's when you got to worry about that. So
Yeah, and if you're smart about replacing your recoil spring,
right.
I have
Yeah,
an
I do
old
know
Beretta.
some of the USPSA and IPSC like pro shooters, they'll shoot 60,000 rounds in a year easy.
Yeah.
And they sit there and do nothing but hand load all weekend and then or like all weeknights and then go out and shoot on the weekends and burn 2,000 rounds a weekend.
Yeah. It's kind of wild, and I
hey, if it floats your boat, like if it floats your boat, I can't afford that. So
yeah, same. Apparently the Lago Aliens, like those super expensive, kind of weird pistols. I thought they were super cool, but apparently they do beat themselves to death in like 10 to 20,000 rounds.
yeah, I don't know. I had a coworker who worked at Lago for a little while, and he, I don't know, he had some pretty good things to say, but I haven't heard about much about the beating himself to death.
I imagine that's mostly like a competition, like a high round count. Something to do with like the gas chamber just filling full of shit.
That makes sense. If it's a gas delayed those are gas delayed blowback, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does tend to like when you heat metal up, it weakens.
Yeah.
So I know there's the meme about jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but it sure as hell can like ruin the structural integrity of them.
Yeah.
Put a 9/11 joke in there just for why not? But yeah, it's like if you get steel over like past its heat treat temperature, it's going to like lose its integrity and like ductile strength.
Yeah,
that's where you go into metallurgy again.
Yeah, metallurgy is important.
It is very important, especially on firearms when you got to contain 50, 60, 80,000 psi.
Yeah. Before all this, we were talking about like barrels and what makes a good one, what makes a bad one. My mind jumped to like 300 blackout, accidentally setting down the wrong barrel. Some barrels will actually be able to withstand the pressure fucking somehow.
Yeah, sometimes. Some barrels, hammer forged barrels are generally stronger. And they're generally going to hold up better for that kind of stuff. Like every barrel's got its application. Like your cheap like button rifled nitride stuff is good for your general masses because like you can make one for like $30 and sell them on PSA rifles, and sometimes they shoot okay, sometimes they shoot 10 MOA, so it's like it's roll of the dice. But that's also like again in volume, whereas like your high-end precision rifle cut rifle barrels, they're only going to last like 3,000 rounds depending on the cartridge, 3 to 5,000 rounds. But they're going to be super accurate. Now, some companies have been able to do hammer forged chrome line barrels. From what I can see, Geisley has pulled it off with their barrels that shoot sub-minute with a hammer forged chrome line barrel, like a mil-spec barrel. And usually those are usually pretty strong. Because like when you hammer forge, you get the grains of the metal aligned, and it's all pre-stressed. It's pre-stressed, so it doesn't want to move or crack or anything. Because like if you've tried to turn a button rifled barrel after button rifling, like try to turn the outside, sometimes the rifling will actually open up. Because all a button rifle is you're ramming a button through it. It's kind of smearing the rifling into the barrel, and you're pushing the material out of the way and compressing it. Just something interesting, because if you ever try to turn some button rifle barrels, if they're not stress relieved properly, they'll actually end up opening up the bore and making it not shoot so good.
That's I've never thought about any of these things. Basically, like my monkey brain is like, does it shoot good? Will it last long?
Yes. And get a Criterion or like a Geisley or like a shoot. There's another company I can't remember their name at the top head, but there's several companies out there that make good like either like good button rifled or hammer forged chrome line barrels that will last forever. It's also like another thing with metallurgy is like I know there's a huge debate with billet versus forged AR uppers and lowers and receivers. Forging is technically stronger. It's actually stronger because again, when you forge something, you're aligning the crystal grain structure of the metal, and a forged receiver, mil-spec receiver, is technically stronger than most billet lowers out there or uppers.
But I think the big question is, does it matter?
For most people, no. They're never going to shoot that many rounds. You're dedicated, like you're tier 1 SF guys or stuff who are going to go through, like, put 50,000 rounds on a gun in a year is the kind of guys where you have to worry about that. Or if, like, you're dedicated to training and shooting, barrels end up becoming consumable, bolts are going to be a consumable. Like, there's a good thread on ARFCOM, actually, or AR15.com. It's the Battlefield Vegas guys, and they keep a log of how many rounds their guns go before parts wear out, and they post their updates and like results on the website, and like they'll get an AR upper that'll go like 100,000 rounds.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, the bolt will actually like eat a path into the upper. Like, the bolt basically keeps rising up and higher into the receiver until the gas key won't align with the gas tube anymore. It's pretty interesting.
That's actually really interesting. I never.
Lowers, they'll run basically until the pinholes egg out.
Yeah.
If they weren't already egged out from manufacturing, because that is something I have seen on quite a few high-end, like tier 1 AR brands, is like trigger pinholes being misaligned and causing, like, the guys who trigger somebody's trying to stick into them to double, or like their own triggers doubling, or like the safety not working because the pinholes aren't lined up and like those surfaces can't interact properly. So that's another thing, like good machining and QC again.
Yeah. So for our listeners who may actually want to get into gunsmithing, because we have a lot of people on here, like military, some people who are like tangentially related, like interested in guns, some people are really into it, some people are just like absolutely autistic. But like for the people who are looking to, I mean, like probably a lot of people who are listening to this are absolutely fucking autistic. Like me.
Same.
But for the younger folks who want to get into gunsmithing, where would you suggest they start? Would you suggest they start at the Sonoran Desert Institute?
Probably not Sonoran Desert Institute. I would start YouTube videos, and then if you live near one of the gunsmithing schools, the bigger ones, like Montgomery Community College in North Carolina, I can't recommend them enough. I'm a little biased because I went there. School out in Colorado's pretty good, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
I've only met one person who ever went there, so take that for what it is. The one in Pennsylvania, there's a gunsmithing school in Pennsylvania. It's only like a 3-semester program, so you don't really learn as much. But also just take basic machining classes, like learn how to run a mill, learn how to run a lathe, learn how to read blueprints and tolerances. And then a lot of the other stuff you can kind of figure out. Learning how to weld is another one. If you got kind of hands-on skills, you like to get your hands dirty. Or like find somebody who's willing to like apprentice. Like a lot of gunsmiths will still do like an apprenticeship, like the old school, like you work until like you learn how to take over the business kind of thing.
Yeah.
And finding like an old guy gunsmith who's willing to teach you and willing to, as long as he's a good gunsmith. Like I wouldn't go to like, Bubba down the road with the Dremel and the cold blue. And if he's got a Dremel tool and he uses it on a regular basis, run. That's lapsmithing. That's not gunsmithing.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the story about the guy who had a like Rubbermaid full of cold blue solution. That was his refinishing process. It was like a buffing wheel and that. It was like, oh god.
My god. I didn't know that.
That was a fairly well-known like surplus company, or like surplus part company.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, like I had no idea about the Type 3 anodized like hard coat thing.
Yeah, Mark Novak, he runs the Anvil Gunsmithing YouTube channel and is kind of on Instagram some. He is honestly, in my opinion, probably one of the best gunsmiths in the country, or at least on the East Coast. He does some apprenticeships. I don't know how exactly that works. But like his YouTube videos are a treasure trove. He always says don't take what that is, but like you can learn a lot just of like how gunsmithing goes, and like kind of like shop tricks and tips and tricks from that guy. He is like one of my favorite people to watch. Like if I'm just sitting there and like doing something, just have him on the background, and I'll always learn something from one of his videos.
Yeah.
He's a lot like I'm trying to think what to compare him to. It's a lot like like one of the old woodworking shows, or like Bob Ross for gunsmithing.
I
It's
love
like,
that. I love
and
that.
his
It's
but
like,
he's funny. He's really good at what he does, like really good. He's come to our school and talked a few times. Um, and but he's just a he was never originally a gunsmith. He was like an elevator repair guy in a nuclear. He worked on nuclear submarines or something like that.
that's actually really cool. It's kind of funny how people get into it.
Yeah, and then just has his own shop down there in South
Yeah,
Carolina.
it's kind of
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, just like apprenticeships, looking at a gunsmithing school. I know there's a lot of other community colleges who are standing up programs for gunsmithing because it is becoming popular. For like employment wise, though, it's very hit or miss. Depends on your region. And like if you can get into a niche like custom rifle building, you figure out something you're really good at and like to
Yeah,
do.
I was going to
That's
say like
where
right out
I
of
got lucky.
yeah,
I got lucky right out of school getting a job doing R&D
yeah,
for like cool stuff and
yeah,
government projects and military, and um
real
that's
cool
very
guy
rare.
shit.
That's like one in a million jobs, so I can't really like say that's the norm. A lot of
Yeah,
guys will go into repair and you can kind of make some money off of repair, but you're gonna be you're not gonna be like loaded doing
yeah,
repair work like general repair at a shop.
yeah,
If you can get into a niche like being the guy to make like custom rifles, or I have a buddy who was in my class. He has a side business right now. He works at a regular machine shop because he's also a machinist as well as a gunsmith, and just like a job shop machine shop. But he also makes custom cartridges for Civil War era rifles. So like he makes burnt side cartridges, and he makes like Smith carbine cartridges for the guys who still shoot those guns in Virginia.
yeah.
And he has a pretty lucrative business with that kind of stuff in black powder because that's a good niche. Like Smith carbines, a lot of those old Civil War guns are still good to shoot. And so if you can, but the problem is like the ammunition doesn't exist anymore,
Yeah.
and he makes like custom stainless steel cartridges that'll be reusable for those things. And
That's really cool.
um, he has a good business. I'll have to plug his business at some other time because I don't actually have like he doesn't actually have a business front. It's just kind of word of mouth because he does the North South Skirmish Association.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of that, it's like the group of guys who dress Civil War era, but they shoot competitively. It's like competitive, like high power shooting, but with Civil War era guns and uniforms and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, their national shoot's really cool. I haven't been to it yet, but they have a competition grouping cannons at 1,000 yards, like muzzle loading black powder cannons, and they're shooting them at plywood at 1,000 yards for groups. It's pretty awesome, and like how fast you can do it, and like these guys will custom turn their own projectiles. It's pretty neat.
That's actually really cool. What about for like more mass manufacturing jobs? Do you think there's a
Um,
for it for
a lot of companies, like I've like toured a few companies. A lot of like the big like mass manufacturer type things, like they won't hire gunsmiths because like or like they won't utilize them well. They might put them as like an assembly position building an AR or like building pistols or something like that. But like a lot of companies don't really need them because there's not a lot of especially if they're building a already well engineered or like well proven out gun,
yeah.
because like a lot of gunsmithing custom work. So it really is more towards like custom shop work
Yeah.
for gunsmiths nowadays. Because I know like again, I was at SHOT Show when I was in gunsmithing school because our school would take us to SHOT Show, and the Remington guy at the Remington booth literally told me that like quit your gunsmithing school, learn how to run a CNC. Their gunsmithing is a dead trade, and
Look
like
at your company now, bitch.
yeah, it's like it's kind of funny because
Yeah.
they're not in business anymore.
Yeah. Maybe if they had some gunsmiths, their QC wouldn't have been such dog shit.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot to save Remington.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was actually savable in general when it kind of collapsed. Which is a shame. Some of their stuff was good, but towards the end it was all pretty much garbage.
Yeah.
I think Ruger finally fixed all the Marlin guns, which is good.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I
like,
had an ancient Marlin once. I kind
yeah, like the old Marlins were good. When Remington, like the Freedom Group, bought them out, they went to crap because like I don't know how true this is, but I heard a rumor they fired the whole staff of Marlin and started with new people.
That's
And then like
garbage.
nobody knew how to do anything.
Yeah.
That's why like Marlin went to crap.
That is unfortunate.
So I
I'm
don't
glad
know how
that
true that is, though. So that's just a rumor mill from the
yeah,
grapevine.
I'm glad a somewhat like capable company has taken over.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of yeah, again, big manufacturing, not a whole lot of need for gunsmiths. If you get like more smaller shops like that do some custom work or like will do like custom order guns.
Yeah,
Like if you got they have like a mass manufacturer side, but then they also have like a custom shop side, and they'll have
yeah,
gunsmiths for that who will do like custom make a gun or Cerakote it or trick it out how people want.
yeah,
But there's definitely still a need, and there's definitely still a job market for old school gunsmiths. Because, like, again, a lot of times there's a lot of old guns out there, especially milsurps. When I got into this, I was going in with the assumption I would start my own shop and like fix milsurp guns all day because I love milsurps, like World War II, World War One, even before
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And like parts aren't being made for a lot of those anymore. So if you can make parts or like find a niche, like if you could make French gun parts again, like old like World War One era French gun parts, there's a market for that or something
yeah.
like that. I'm just throwing that as an example. I'm sure if somebody started new production like Labelle parts, Ian McCollum would like fund your entire business.
I like him.
But
I want him on also.
I've met him a few times. He's a very
He's
good guy.
super
He's
nice. Like
super nice. I have a funny SHOT Show story of my buddy drunk meeting him in an elevator. This is the same guy who does the Civil War cartridges. Um, he had fairly sauced. We were getting in an elevator to go down to just walk the strip. Um, and like Ian's in the elevator, I guess going down to do something else, and like he's like, "Hey, you're Ian McCollum." He's like, "That's me." And my buddy's like, he's like a 6'6" redheaded dude, like
yeah.
huge. And he's just completely trash. He just pokes him in the chest. He's like, I'm gonna get your autograph later. And Ian's like, I'll be around.
Oh man, poor guy.
It was super embarrassing, and my
Yeah,
buddy felt really bad afterwards about that. But it was pretty funny.
yeah.
Um,
He is a nice guy though.
but Ian, I've met him a couple times. I got him to sign my like Vickers Guide books. He's super cool.
That's awesome.
Um, super knowledgeable dude.
Yeah,
And
he knows more than basically anyone about like 6mm French Labelle. I just made that up.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
like,
If that's real
do you
caliber.
have any 32 French long?
Yeah. He's just like a cool friggin' guy.
Him,
Super nice.
Othias of CN Arsenal is also the same way. I haven't met him, but he just seems cool.
Yeah.
Larry Vickers is very cool. Even though I feel bad about what happened to him.
Yeah, me too. That
like,
really sucks.
Yeah, most people like even like your bigger like YouTuber guys and like your I want to say influencers, but like people like Larry Vickers, they're usually just really nice people, like
Yeah.
just really like passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
What I've experienced. James Yeager was exactly like you'd expect him to be, but rest in peace.
Yeah.
I've met him once. It was again another SHOT Show interaction. He was calling a kid in my class fat and needed to go to the gym, so that was really funny.
That sounds like a very James Yeager thing.
Yep, it was just like how he was, but it was one of the funniest things I've seen at SHOT Show.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal at SHOT Show seeing all the people that you've only seen online. It's like I don't really like I'm too Tizamy to fanboy, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
If you're nice,
Like,
you're nice. If you're not, you're not. If you make cool content, you make cool content. But my one kind of like, oh fuck moment was when I saw Chris Costa at SHOT Show. And I actually just like my brain shut down. I'm like, this guy was my introduction into tactical shooting.
Yeah, the
introduction
Magpul dynamics and
back in like 2008 or some shit.
Yep.
And I went up and I just introduced myself quickly and I thanked him, just like, hey, you were my introduction to this world. Thank you. Like I appreciate what you did. And he was super humble and nice. He seemed quite genuine. I liked it.
yeah, he came by our booth at SHOT Show and He seemed like a pretty nice dude. I
Yeah.
didn't really get to talk to him. I was
Yeah, I'm glad
working.
he's still around. I
Yeah.
know he does some stuff with the guys I get to do all my like slide milling. Patriot CNC, they work together. But
Okay, yeah,
other than that, I haven't really seen him around.
yeah,
But,
yeah. SHOT Show. I think my the highlight of SHOT Show this year was I got to hang out with the Commando Store crew for a while, and that was
they're fun. They're super.
those guys are some of the best guys out there. They're hilarious. They're very genuine.
Super genuine.
Yeah, they brought us a bunch of swag like the day after we hung out with them. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
It was they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people in this industry are really cool and like very like.
I agree. I've had
there's very
few bad
few assholes.
Yeah.
Which is nice because like we're all on the same team at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sure, everybody's competing against everybody else.
Yeah. The assholes are few and far between. They're mostly just exist online.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like most of it's like most of the hate people get is from like people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Or who are trying to justify a crappy, or they're trying to justify a crappy purchase and are just uneducated or just have FUD lore and just need to be educated. It's at the end of the day, everything's about education. Just people just need to know what's good and what's bad, and
and like sift through all the misinfo and dog shit,
sales tactics and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of snake oil.
Definitely, there's a lot of snake oil in this industry. Unfortunately, a lot of people fall for it, but just buy once, cry once.
Yes, don't
buy good parts.
Don't buy red anodized things.
Don't fall for the red anodized or like brightly colored parts thing. If it's vet your manufacturers, like if they're reputable people, they're probably good. If it's cheap and they have a really good warranty, and that's like what they
you'll probably have to use that warranty.
You're probably going to have to use warranty. I have in my time shooting, I have broken like 6 Vortex like razors. Like they just die.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's not good.
And I mean, Vortex will replace them, but like I'd like to not have a scope that dies every 20,000 rounds.
Yeah, and that's a razor too. That's their higher end line.
Oh yeah, it was like the $3,000 one.
I had a buddy who he shot competitively quite a bit. He ran First Do Firearms out in Maine, and he said the same thing. His shop does not carry Vortex because so many.
The other thing I've seen is like calls are not like duty grade optics. Like people like the calls; they're very clear, but they're not.
K-A-H-L-E-S?
Yeah, K-H-A-L-E. Yeah, however you say it. But they're just not rugged, from my experience. They're more of a sporting optic. The brands I have never seen break or fail, except for like maybe the occasional QC Lemon.
Yeah.
Night Force. Night Force are just awesome. Loophole are also very good. At work, we're only allowed to use Night Force and zero compromise optics though for testing for accuracy.
That's actually kind of cool.
Zero compromise. There's like a small company out of Austria, or like I don't know the exact story of how they got started, but they're really neat because they build like it's probably one of the most expensive scopes out there, but they're basically just indestructible. It's made out of a solid piece of aluminum. Like they turn the whole scope instead of brazing it or like gluing it together. The whole thing's turned out of a solid piece, so it's just one solid tube, but it's built like a tank.
Until this moment, I assumed that all optic bodies were made like that.
No, most of them are like brazed together. If you're because I've seen somebody rip the scope bell off a scope doing PRS stuff because they tried to like brace on their scope and ended up ripping the front end of it off because it was just brazed together.
I did not know that.
Because they pulled a little too hard. That's why you should also never pick your scope gun up by your scope. So
yeah.
That's why like I laugh. If you look on LaRue's website, LaRue has this thing. It's like a carry handle for your gun. It mounts to the scope. It's like the leather strap, and like they're dead serious on their marketing about it too, which is hilarious. But like you should not be picking up the gun by the scope.
Mark LaRue's an interesting fella. I think he just like does flights of fancy here and there.
He's definitely interesting, that's for sure.
I don't know what's the troll and what's not at this point.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I think a lot of it's honestly he's dead serious, but I can't tell.
Like the C note, the like pistol. Oh, sorry, my dog is trying to climb me.
Oh, you're good. I think the
she's 80 pounds or would not be an issue.
It's definitely a FUD thing, but I don't know. I really don't know. I can't tell sometimes. But like his groupings, he'll post like a 1-shot grouping or like a 3-shot grouping, and you really can never gather data off of that.
Yeah.
So that stuff always entertains me, of just because like they really haven't come out with new stuff recently, like
Yeah.
like AR stuff. They haven't kept up with the market,
Yeah.
so I feel like some of it's trying to stay relevant, but like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like it does keep everyone talking about Mark LaRue. So
Yeah,
we're
definitely.
talking
Like
about him right now. You know, a lot of people are going to be hearing about this, and they'll remember Mark LaRue exists. Which, like, LaRue does make very good rifles, so I'm not going to say anything.
yeah, I
Nor
have
would I.
seen a couple like they are kind of finicky. Some of his guns are kind of finicky.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple like police units or like LE units have gotten some like OBRs, and they won't run if you don't clean them every like 30, 40 rounds. So
Yeah.
they can, some of his stuff can be finicky, but generally they're well regarded. And at least in my experience, I haven't seen good things, but I don't know. I just a sample size of like 5, so
Yeah. I couldn't tell you. Like I've used a couple. Mitch had a LaRue Predator
okay.
OBR, and
Yeah.
and I think you really liked it, but you know,
Yeah,
I've
that
used
was
some
the
really
hot
tricky-
stuff back
Yeah.
15 years ago if you wanted a precision AR.
Yeah.
I think there's some better stuff that's come along since then.
Yeah. 15 years of development will do that.
Oh, absolutely. Especially like 2010 AR market is not what it was today. It's like we've come a long way.
Yeah, a lot of the people I know, like sample size of the people around me who are very like, it's basically like they'll build their own thing, or you know, the people with money will just buy a Daniel Defense off the rack,
Right.
and everyone else
Which
is like
honestly,
PSA or Radical.
yeah, it's like
But that's also just like
like, right. I don't know. I see a mix of things out here. Like you got some Geisley stuff since they're a local brand. Like IWI,
Yeah.
has ARs, or like most people though seem to run like a mix of like Arrow and like BCM. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, there's
generally
a
what I
lot of that.
see. And they're good.
Yeah.
They're good guns. Like there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah,
They
I think
work.
my first good upper was a BCM.
But yeah, it is funny seeing the hodgepodge build people at a match and like their guns malfunctioning every 10 rounds, and they just like, or like they've got the crappiest bottom barrel AR at a 2-gun match, and they're like just racking the bolt every like 5 rounds and just thinking it's normal. And like, that's not normal. Your gun shouldn't be
Yeah.
malfunctioning. Like,
I've had a
more
lot
than,
of
like,
conversations where it's like, yeah, my gun's fantastic. I only get 1 jam every like 5 megs. Like you shouldn't be getting any.
yeah, like that's a problem. Like, which mag is it? Is it the same mag every time? If so,
Yeah.
I'm like, throw that mag down range and shoot it.
Yeah.
Because like most of your malfunctions are gonna, at least on an AR, are gonna come from the mag, especially if you're running bad, like, or like an overgas gun. Somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they sold a 16-inch barrel with a pistol length gas system.
Who even makes that? Why?
I don't
why
know. I feel like it was like an accident. Like they ran the wrong program on the CNC or something, and they just decided to sell them. But the guy, somebody at work bought one just to try it out, or because it was like $50, and it ripped the gas key off his bolt carrier because it was just like that high pressure and that long of dwell time. It was pretty funny. It blew his gas key clear off. It was slightly entertaining.
Yeah.
But just like if you're gonna build a gun, do your research, tune it right, buy good parts. Like, again, buy once, cry once. This thing is meant to last forever. Especially if you
like
shoot
your
more
barrel
than, like,
and your bolt. I would say
if you plan to shoot more than 1,000 rounds in your lifetime through that gun, you should get good parts.
Yeah. I've got friends who will like put all their money into things that other people see on their gun, and none of the parts.
Yeah.
None of the money into parts that actually make their gun run nice. So
right.
like,
or you get the people that complain about like a gun that has scratches on it, or like they scratched their gun, but like their $3,000 gun, but they never shoot it. It's like,
it's like my brother in Christ. You have like $1,000 into the parts of your rifle, but you're shooting 4 MOA with like a stock PSA barrel.
Yeah, it's like everything else is nice except the guts. It's like a Lamborghini that has like a Geo Metro engine or something in it.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay, cool. Your V7 like reinforced ultralight handguard is really great.
I have a buddy who has tried to work on some V7 stuff, and like it's just too light. Like he cracked the lower because it's just too thin trying to put a trigger pin in. which is pretty
Okay,
funny.
now it's a V7 hate podcast. Let's get into metallurgy.
I don't know. I've seen just about every part that can break under the sun at this point. If you're working on ARs for 5 years and doing development work on stuff, you see everything break. So like, I'm not gonna knock any company for having a one-off part, but it is really thin. Their stuff is really kind of scarily thin.
Yeah, and again, like jokes aside, I think we're getting into like I don't actually hate V7. I think
no, I don't either.
Pretty cool. Like Sig, I have choice words for Sig.
Same.
But V7, it's like I actually appreciate what they're doing, and it's built for
they have
case.
Yeah, they have a niche, and they're very good in their niche. So like, I respect
exactly.
that.
They're not trying to pretend they're a Daniel Defense.
No.
They are making ultralight things and pushing metallurgy into places it doesn't normally go to fulfill its niche. And I think
which is
really
cool. Like using different alloys and that kind of stuff is a really neat idea if you want like an ultralight gun.
Yeah. But at the same time, like there will be compromises.
There's going to be trade-offs for durability.
Yeah.
So
because like the metallurgy of building ARs is 80 years old or something.
Right.
Compared to
aluminum, there have been some really good advances in alloys, but like at the end of the day, like it's 7000 series aluminum.
Yeah.
For the upper and lower and whatever for the handguard, like. Some companies will do 7000 series, or at least claim 7000 series on the handguards.
Yeah.
But I know most companies' handguards are like 6061 aluminum, which is more like I won't say soda can. It's cheaper and softer. Even some companies that claim 7000 series, they're still 6000 series.
Yeah.
Even like high-end brands, hilariously. But I'm not gonna name any names because I don't want to dox myself or like shit talk. Other fairly decent companies when they make fairly decent products still.
That is unfortunate though. My mind goes to the Goobers Group.
That thing is straight up soda can aluminum, and it's not even anodized, so it's like super soft. Yeah, no, that's not worth it.
It's not anodized. What the fuck is it? Cerakote?
I think it's just Cerakoted. Like as far as I know, when I was originally reading, they didn't say anything about anodizing on their website. So, like, it's a soda can aluminum.
Yeah, and like China's putting out clones made of 7075.
Yeah. So
1.5 times stronger.
It's that again is also a very niche use case for that mount. It's like for that mount only exists because the handguards on the SIG MCX don't hold 0.
Yes.
That's it.
That's so fucking funny. I
like the hangers don't hold 0 on the MCX. The barrels just kind of move around the upper at will, so like they don't hold 0 either. So it's like. At least on the spears. The older MCXs, like the Virtuses are okay, except for you can't mount stuff on the handguard.
Yeah.
The spears
for Sig hate.
are barrel problematic because the barrel. I literally went to a gun show and like picked up a spear and like I could just pull the barrel around in the upper and like you could like just move it to one side to the other.
What gun
and, like,
shows
it just
are you
stay
going to
there.
where there's 6 spears?
The
ones around me are all like anodized ARs with like Chinesium optics or $1,000 Moses.
This is like it's the biggest gun show in PA, I think, and that's where you get that because you also get like the Class 3 dealers that have like $1 million worth of machine guns sitting on a table.
Yeah.
So, like
that's kind of awesome, actually.
It's some of those guys are pretty cool. I've gotten to see some pretty cool rare stuff. I met a guy who imports tanks there at one of those.
Fucking what?
That was cool. Yeah, he was like, this is pre-Ukraine, but he was importing tanks, from like Czech Republic and like that stuff. Like he's a guy who got a lot of drive tanks in.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Just kind of chatted with him for a few minutes. But like, yeah, that's the kind of gun show this is. It's a more high-end, like collector show kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also get that's on one area, and then in the other area of the gun show, there's the red anodized ARs and Dracos and that kind of stuff. Not knocking a Draco, they work, but
yeah, I still want a Draco. I didn't even care. Like old Draco with a suppressor on it.
Mean pistol.
Cool. Little suppressor, little RMR or something like an acro. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, it's fire breather. Those things don't suppress very well though.
I can imagine.
AKs don't suppress very well. You have to like. I've seen some gunsmithing and I've messed with this a little bit where you can like drill a basically you thread the gas port on the gas block where the piston comes in, and you can put different set screws in that have different size diameter ports.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that on PSLs to like reduce the gas and make them more tunable
Yeah.
and suppressible, so they won't beat themselves to death.
Yeah. That it sounds like that might be a problem.
Yeah. Draco is just like the short barrel is where the problem is, in the gas block close to their gas port close to the end of the barrel. So
Yeah.
But that's why they got a booster.
Yeah. Either way, we are coming up on 2 hours now.
Oh,
I
dang.
feel like we've covered enough SIG hate.
And I hope I've like talked about gunsmithing effectively enough in this.
Yeah, I really appreciate the insight, and like I can't stress enough. I wish we could dox you more, because it's your whole situation is really, really cool. But at the same time, in order for you to keep that job, maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, I'd like to stay kind of under the
Stay-
radar a little
yeah,
bit.
stay employed gainfully.
Yeah.
But do know, if you're listening to this, like, you do some really cool shit. It's some of the weapons.
Thank you.
that
I appreciate that.
Are that you personally have worked on are some of the coolest, small arms related things that I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah. We'll actually have a cool PDW thing coming out eventually that I actually helped design the buffer system on. So
Really? What caliber?
it's gonna be 5.56 and 300 blackout. So
Hey, you should tell me more about that when you can.
Yeah.
'Cause that sounds really freaking cool. But yeah,
it is very cool. And if you're ever out this way, you could probably shoot it. So
I would like
and,
that.
yeah, if you're ever out,
I'm surprised. Somehow this entire episode I haven't doxed your company except the beginning. I think I got it out of my system.
yeah, that's good. So
PR, this is your reminder. If you haven't censored the name, please do that. Thank you. But yeah, before we wrap up, do you have any dad advice for our listeners?
Wear PPE.
Yes.
Lead poisoning and heavy metal poisoning is no joke. It will affect you later in life. I've seen it happen to people. Cancers. Wear gloves when you're cleaning stuff. Like, just a set of nitrile gloves will go a long way to keeping you from getting like bladder cancer later in life or something like that.
Yeah.
So like, it really does help. I know it doesn't look cool, but like,
An ounce
you don't
of
want
prevention is a
cancer.
pound of cure. Yeah. It's like you only have one set of lungs. You only got one set of eyes. It's advice I wish I took better when I was young. So yeah, no, do that and watch your lead levels.
Definitely. Lead poisoning is real.
Yeah. I have a small respirator that I try not to shoot indoors much anymore, so I don't really wear it anymore. But when I was shooting indoors a lot, I had a small little mask.
Yeah. The OpsCore one's really good. So
yeah. The solder, I think it's called.
Yeah, I use one of those at work, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The filters also aren't too expensive for that either, so which is nice.
Yeah. Anyways, Ben, thank you for coming on. I
of course.
really appreciate the insight into the entire industry.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I never thought I'd get to the point where I'd be on a podcast in this industry, so thank you.
Dude, always. You're super interesting to talk to, and I said that at Shot. I'm saying it here. I really appreciate your time. And,
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, is there any social media or anything people can find you on, or are you just trying to
I have an Instagram, but like I really just kind of lurk. I don't post much.
Yeah.
I can it's what is my Instagram handle? I can just put it here. It's,
I don't know if it has anything to identify.
It's BM Gould Gould 097. So
yeah,
that's my Instagram handle. I rarely post, if ever. I'm just kind of out here.
Yes,
doing cool stuff.
I imagine you
shooting a lot.
The stuff you do.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Occasionally, the company will post pictures of me doing cool stuff, so that's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.